Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of Vampire the Masquerade Beyond Armageddon. Before we begin, I'd like to make a few announcements. First, we are proud to announce that Sabbat the Schism is officially out now. Not only does it delve into the history and lore of the sect, it opens up multiple role-playing options for fans of the game, including new playable clans, elder level powers, and much more. You can find your own copy of Sabbat the Schism in the link below. Second, I'd like to thank RS Experiments, our local musical talent, for graciously providing the custom music you've been enjoying so far, including our awesome main theme song called Haven Dweller. If you enjoy any of the music used during the stream and you'd like to hear more, you can find a full library of Mark's work by clicking the link below to RS Experiments' SoundCloud page. Lastly, if you enjoyed tonight's session and you'd like to see more, be sure to follow both our channels. You can catch us live most Sundays at 7 p.m. CET by tuning in to youtube.com/@EriseGames or at twitch.tv/EriseGames. Alternatively, you can enjoy all our recorded sessions on YouTube. Links below. Remember to like, subscribe, and be sure to leave us feedback and suggestions in the comments below. We hope you enjoy the session, and without further ado, let us delve into the world of darkness in tonight's episode of Vampire the Masquerade Beyond Armageddon. As the sun sets over LA and night takes over the city, we join our uncannily aware Zamichi, not within the city of Los Angeles, but far to the northwest, along the American coast. He wanders through the Shadowlands, seeking something. As he traverses through the pitch black environment, evading any potential threats that may wander by. In the distance, Jasper notices his objective. In the Shadowlands, it is but a mere echo of what it actually is in the real world. Fragments of the building float in midair, perhaps reflections of mistakes made that may have aroused anxiety or simply moments of boredom that sparked dreams that reflected some emotions in the Shadowlands. As Jasper approaches the structure, what is going through his mind?
Well, he is ecstatic to learn something new, especially if it has caught the attention of unwanted visitors like the Tremere.
And it is with this eagerness with which you eventually wander past the faded fragments of what undoubtedly is a metal fence in the real world. You wander through the halls of the power plant. You see signs still up, perhaps reflections of older logos that named this power plant the Diablo Canyon power plant. As you wander through the halls of this shell that houses the power you seek, you eventually find what you were looking for. In the fragmented figure of a large, almost entirely composed cylinder, you find essentially a case submerged in cooling liquid. You are currently in the Shadowlands. You will need to be in the Skinlands to do what you came to do.
Of course. But I cannot do that with
We're assuming you came
without,
prepared.
Mhm. Without taking some precautions. So Jasper needs to find, well, wherever the security place of this whole facility is.
Mm-hmm. You may roll, let's say, wits and larceny to try and
Okay.
detect where exactly the security room might be.
Just a second.
Mm-hmm.
As he is walking, how well protected is this place? Um how good is the security here?
From what you see, obviously you can peer into the Skinlands. That has its own risks, but you can peer into the Skinlands if you wish. From the Shadowlands, you do see a couple of fragments that might indicate they have cameras set up all over the place, but that's about it.
Mhm.
Peering into the Skinlands may yield some more information, but not right now. All right. Taking bits and pieces of knowledge you've gathered from your time since you first appeared in the Skinlands after your hiatus, you've managed to at least get a very basic sense of how humans tend to organize their buildings. You wander through the halls, looking for fragments of signs, potentially emotions that allow you to see in the Shadowlands, directions to where the security room is. And you eventually find, although it's extremely fragmented, an apparition of a room with a couple of chairs and a number of monitors. In the Shadowlands, they are merely pitch black squares flickering with faint images of memories that may have reflected onto this place. But in the real world, you are sure this is the security room.
Okay, okay. Now, how many guards are in there?
Would you like to peer into the Skinlands?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, if a roll is needed, perform it. If a cost is required, pay it. I'm trusting you to handle that side of things. Otherwise,
Mm.
your gaze pierces through the veil. You peer into the security room within the Skinlands. Sitting at one of the chairs, with his feet up on the counter and eating what looks like a little box of noodles, is a very bored-looking security guard. Clearly overweight, not paying much attention, but his gaze still fixed on the cameras. You look around the room, and on the table behind the two chairs, sitting at it, is another guard who simply scrolls through his phone. This guard seems to be much younger, but while he is far more distracted with his phone, you do see that he constantly drifts his eyes up at the screens, and he looks far more awake than the other one.
Mm-hmm. So only these two. Okay. Okay. Well, I guess we gotta start somewhere. There are no cameras in the security room itself, right?
None.
Okay. It is time to, well, leave the Shadowlands and go into the Skinlands.
All
While
right.
doing so, getting rid of both of them at the same time wouldn't be a bad idea. And turning off the cameras.
What approach are you taking in their disposal? And I'd like also the rationale behind it.
Well, he wants to do this quietly. He doesn't want to be disturbed too much. So if he can use vicissitude to crush their windpipes, both of them, from behind.
All right. Would it be fair to assume that Jasper would try to appear behind the younger guard at the table, try to silence him quickly, and then, if stealth was successful, sneak up on the other guard, otherwise improvise? Is this a
Yes.
fair description of what you tried to do?
Yes, it is.
All right. You prepare to step into the Skinlands, making sure your bag of preparation stays out of the way as you perform this quick but deadly modification. And I would like you to roll Dex and Stealth. I won't have you roll for the vicissitude, but I'll have you roll Dex and Stealth.
A success.
Okay. You step through the Shadowlands and into the Skinlands. You feel the cold caress of the veil slowly greeting you with the warmth of the air within the living world. As the extremely bored guard sitting on the chair in front of the screens, playing with his cup of noodles, as his attention is quite dulled, he does not notice you. Only the younger guard notices you. And as he turns around and almost opens his mouth to scream in horror at the sight he beholds, you very calmly, but in a very swift, quick motion, put your hand over his mouth. And while he attempts to struggle, you hold his arm still. Soon enough, his face is essentially fused shut. And you stop his thrashing with quick pinching on the back of his neck. You look to the other guard to make sure he didn't hear anything. And it seems that the commotion prompted only sort of a motion like this, sort of like a quiet down motion towards the back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm also in need of some blood, so I might as well take a bite out of them.
Okay, which one are you biting? I will remind you that the poor young man that you've just mangled, while dying, is technically still alive. Failing to struggle because you essentially just, crippled him.
Well, let's take care of the other guy that can get, well, unwanted attention if he does see me first.
Mm-hmm. Another, this time let's go strength and stealth, please.
Mm-hmm.
And difficulty will be slightly lowered, as you do have your tails, which can serve as swift implements to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid.
Run away. I will use a willpower on this, just because he's near the console, and I definitely don't want him to sound any alarms.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
It's always when you use your willpower that you get the good rolls.
Right.
With a swift motion, you dig into his neck with your fangs. And in his sort of addled state, he doesn't even get to react to what you're doing. Do you drain him, or do you only take enough to put him to sleep? Essentially, do you want to keep him alive?
No, not really.
Okay. Then you may regain 10 points of blood up to your maximum, so not exceeding it. As you remove your fangs from his neck, leaving only a drained, bloated corpse of the guard. You turn to see the younger gentleman on his chair, his phone still on the table, as the victim you just drained drops his noodles on the floor. The young man is still twitching with his face here and there, but eventually begins to stop due to asphyxiation.
I'm going to drink just a little bit more so I can top myself from that.
You may add up to 10, all the way to max if you want. If you want to drain more, that will technically count as indulgence, which, while you're not that far into the path, you would know is technically supposed to be morally wrong. You don't yet feel it that way, but you know, you've been told this part of the path.
No.
Okay.
I would just take 4 blood from him.
All right. May I know how you leave the gentleman?
I leave them both sitting on their chairs, nothing else.
Okay.
And I will go up to the monitor and the panels and turn off. Well, if it's recording, turn off the cameras. All of them.
Let me just check something. Okay. So, I need you to make a quick roll of intelligence, and I'm only allowing you to do this. It's flat intelligence. I'm only allowing you to do this because you have the analytical specialty. So the specialty here doesn't count. It's only allowing you to make the roll in the first place. Okay.
That's successes.
For the purposes you are here for, you would know that if someone were to come into this room and examine both the bodies, a drained body and someone with a very mangled face with no signs of actual, blade work, that would technically be considered a breach of the silence.
Yes. Do I, turn off successfully the cameras? Just so I know?
Yeah, you turn off the cameras. You make sure at least that they're not recording anymore.
Mm-hmm. Even though I really want to smash badly the console, I think that will cause too much unwanted attention, so... It's not recording, but it's still active, the cameras, I would imagine.
They are still active. You can deactivate them completely, but it requires an access card to do so.
Okay. Before I try to deactivate, I look around to see how many people are in this place. Bit of a head count.
Through the cameras?
Through the cameras.
Okay, allow me to make a roll. I already know how many there are, but I want to see how many you can actually see in the cameras. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're pretty sure it's not all of them. You confirm at least 3 people working in the building. On one of the cameras, you see essentially a member of night staff patrolling the hallways. You see someone in the control room, that is the room that controls everything related to the reactor itself, essentially making sure that the levels in the power plant stay within a reasonable level. And you see a single man with a construction helmet and a notepad taking notes next to the concrete cylinder that forms the reactor.
Okay. I check both security cards for any credentials or cards to use.
Okay. The guy you drained of blood, checking his belt, you find tied to it in one of those extension cords. You find a security card with his identification, um, and it says that he is the senior officer between the two when you compare it to the other guard's card.
I'll take his senior officer.
Mm-hmm.
Probably has more of a higher clearance. And let's see, how far away from the control room am I?
Mm. Well, through the cameras alone, you can't tell. How about we make a quick wits investigation roll?
Okay, what's an investigation? One, two, three, four, five, six, 7 successes.
All right. Um, you search the room, and eventually, in one of the drawers, you find a number of documents, mostly pertaining to the details in the for people who work in this position, namely directions to the restricted areas that are most likely targets of invasion during attempts at sabotage. Uh, Through this, you basically get a good sense of where the reactor is and where the control room is. Um, they are both essentially, if you were to go through the hallways, they are about 2 minutes walking, as you would have to exit this building and enter like another side building. And on top of that, you would have to go through a lot of hallways that pass through common areas. Now, it is nighttime, so you'd wager there isn't all that much crew within the building. That said, running into any of them would potentially jeopardize this entire attempt at an experiment.
We can allow that. They're both dead. Probably there's more security to show up. I would take the card that I got from the senior officer, and I'm going to completely turn off cameras. After that, I might go back to the Shadowlands and walk all the way to.
All right. Well, I'm assuming you've brought stuff in the bag that allows you to perform the ritual of passage between Skinlands and Shadowlands. Um,
Also, before that, because technically it's someone dead, could I possibly take the guy that I drained with me to the Shadowlands?
the bodies?
Yes.
Hmm.
Because in the power it says,
I'll say since you have taken people through and you have taken items through, bodies would count, yeah.
okay. So I'll take both of them to the Shadowlands.
All right. You first open up the access to the Shadowlands, and as you step through, dragging both of the bodies, you appear in once more in the representation of the security room within the Shadowlands. As you drop both of the bodies, you look around to notice that the fragmented aspect of the security room has gotten not just larger, but more detailed. Specifically, the area with the table and the chair where the younger gentleman was are now in incredible detail, so much so that there is even an apparition of the phone, or a representation of the phone, an echo of the fear the young man had right before he died.
Alright. Let's see. I guess I would go first to the control room now.
All right. While in the Skinlands, you would have to sneak through and be quite cautious. Within the Shadowlands, it's a simple matter of walking through this mist-like environment all the way until you reach the desired location. As you approach the control room, the representation of it is quite vague. It seems not a lot of strong emotions happened here, apart from one. Amongst the sort of muddled representation of the console, you see three small switches that seem to be in much more detail than the rest of the console. You can't tell what they do yet, but if you'd like, you can try to deduce it.
With all specs 3, wait, no. Yeah, 3.
Within the
To be able
Shadowlands, you
to.
don't actually need that. You just need to touch it if you want.
Okay, then I'll just.
All right. Brushing your fingers against the switches, you see flashes of a memory. First, a man with a helmet, indicating to someone beside him how to operate the console. And at some point, the younger gentleman, clearly sort of a tutor and student relationship, the younger student points to the switches and goes to flip the three of them, asking some sort of question, at which point the mentor grabs his hand, breathing very heavily, and says, "You don't touch those."
Okay. Interesting. I will look into the other side to see how many are currently in the room because it had taken some time, some minutes to get here, so still want to be sure there's still only one person.
Mm-hmm. Peering through, you see the same gentleman you saw before. A guy in a construction helmet, just looking through the glass with a very bored expression. Essentially rotating in his chair like so, leaning back a lot. And once in a while, he reaches into this bag of chips and pops a few in his mouth. once in a while, he scrolls through his phone. Seems very bored, very, just doing his job, basically.
Mhm. I would like to reach into the skin lens and not kill him immediately. I need him, but I will silence him.
Hmm. How will you silence him, specifically?
Um, I will using. No, that won't work. That would also kill him.
What were
No,
you
actually,
thinking?
no. If I just poked a hole through his voice box so he can still breathe but not be able to speak
Hmm.
or make
Usually
any sound
doing,
at all.
yeah, usually doing something like this with a knife might cause him to die, since the precision you'd need is, you'd basically need to do a tracheotomy with a bit less precision, which
Mm.
can be very dangerous. That said, vicissitude allows you to do things that a regular surgeon with a knife might struggle to do. So it is possible. The role will be quite difficult. Not too difficult, but quite difficult.
I will attempt that. If I miss, then unfortunately I just might have to kill him.
Okay? Then I need you to make two rolls. First, Dex and Stealth, and second, Dex and Medicine. The Dex and Medicine roll is slightly higher difficulty. I won't tell you how much, but slightly higher difficulty.
I will use a willpower on it. One
Mm-hmm.
for the dex itself. Dex and medicine.
All right.
I believe that's at least two successes, maybe?
So you step through the veil, appearing within the Skinlands, and as the man, with sort of a confused face, begins to turn, you simply put your hand over his mouth and then put the other hand right here on his chest with your indicator right on his throat. And you begin to dig with your finger into his throat as the man attempts to scream, and all the noise that comes out is this huff of air poking through the hole you've just formed on his throat.
With one of my tails, I'm going to wrap him up, leaving the bladed tip near his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say,
The
what
man
the?
is very, very, very clearly panicked. Um, you can tell he's sort of like attempting to thrash, but it's really no use against the tales you've constructed. What would you like to do next?
Well, how many entrances are in this room?
There are two entrances. There is one door directly behind the console, and there is a door to the side. The door to the side is very clearly labeled reactor room on the top.
Well, is there anything to block the one that is not to the reactor room?
Oh, there's a chair he was
Something
sitting
big.
on.
Well, I'm going to lift him up, grab the chair, and use it to keep the door locked for the time being for now.
All right.
Being under the handle, they cannot open the door.
Mhm. You wedge the chair under the the handle. It has wheels, so you sort of have to like flip it upside down to do this, but it's still doable.
Mhm. I'll then look at him and say, "You will answer my questions, and if you try anything, well, I'll have to kill you. You understand that?"
Okay. Are you using a power or just intimidation?
I I'm using both intimidation and telepathy so I can hear his mind.
All right. I won't have you roll for telepathy, but please roll me a manipulation and intimidation roll.
What persuasive count towards it?
Yes. Jesus. Okay.
That is 2, 4,
Yeah,
6.
that's plenty. The man with a terrified look on his face, still sort of trying to clasp at his neck, uh, just nods, sort of attempting to gasp for air, as the situation you've put him in is essentially breaking his whole perception of reality.
In his mind, does he seem to agree with me that he's not going to do that, or is he just
He
panicking?
he is like very, very clearly panicking. He is shitting his fucking pants in fear. This is potentially the scariest thing he could have ever imagined, and even his imagination might have trouble coming up with this. He's being held in midair by the tail of a creature pulled straight out of a horror movie that just poked a hole in his throat, which still burns like hell. He's very, very afraid for his life, and you think that if you let him go, he might panic and run. But so long as you're holding him, he doesn't really like his rational, his faculties aren't functioning properly. He's in fight or flight mode, so essentially his thoughts are very muddled. He's not thinking about betraying you. He's thinking about what he can do to survive.
I pull him closer and says, "Yes, you want to survive, don't you? Then tell me, or think at least, how long would it take for, well, the reactor to fully go off if something bad happens?
Hmm.
Let's say the cooling system malfunctions."
You peer into his mind, despite him attempting to gasp to somehow fix a situation, wishing it was all just imagination, struggling to even form the words. You manage to fish the information out of his mind. After you, after a malfunction on the cooling system, the reactor would begin heating, and it would take, depending on how, on the potency of the reactor and how it's set up, it could take anywhere from about half an hour to a whole night.
Okay, okay. I try to dig into his mind as I ask, is there any way to expedite that, to make it go faster, perhaps?
The surface thoughts on his mind, I'll have you, this time I'll have you actually roll for uh,
Mhm.
reading his mind, aspects for. Make the regular roll and we'll see how much information you can actually get. But the surface thoughts that immediately spring up are that he's not just panicked and trying to survive, he's wondering how the hell you are answering questions he's not saying, not able to even voice out, but just thinking about, just wondering.
I
And that is a quite good
success.
roll. Uh, digging a bit deeper, piercing his mind, you almost experience his existence as if you were him. And you, from your perception, you see absolute fear and panic, and the image in your mind of the console in front of you, and suddenly all the buttons have meaning to you. And you see a few switches flipped up, and those three you saw flipped down. And the clear knowledge that springs into your mind is producing as much power as possible, or in this case, producing as much heat as possible, while not cooling it down at all. This would take about half an hour to completely destroy the reactor and potentially irradiate the entire facility.
Good, good. Now, if you stay very quiet and very still, maybe, just maybe, I might let you go. What do you think? Jasper says, clearly not really caring about what he's thinking, as he is going to go and open the door to the reactor. Would going in there be very irradiated or not? Would I
So
have at least that
usually
information?
teams who actually roll me a very quick um, intelligence technology, please.
Intelligence technology.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Huh.
Let's say you did your homework before coming here. Teams who go into the reactor room often dress in some protective gear. However, everyday maintenance of the reactor, the entire thing is so safeguarded in modern times that you can safely, for the most part, enter a nuclear reactor room without any protection and even look into the reactor. The problem is if there's any rupture in the reactor. At that point, if you have no protection, if you're mortal, you are going to die, most likely, because the radiation does affect you in the long term very, very quickly if you're exposed to it, especially this type of radiation.
I turn towards him and ask, there hasn't been any mishaps in the reactor room, is there? As I read into his mind once again.
Okay. Um, he shakes his head in fear, and his thoughts are mostly genuine horror at the insinuation that he is supposed to stand still after you inquired about all of these things. He fears for his safety if there is a rupture, because if he doesn't run for his damn life, he might very well die in this building.
Mhm. I look upon him and says, if you try anything at all, especially that running part, I will have to excruciatingly pull you in half. Make sure you cannot run. Now, would you prefer to go into the reactor room with me or run? As I say, going to the reactor door.
The man is in an absolute frantic panic with tears running down his eyes. He just shakes his head, but in his mind, all you can hear is pleads for things to go back to normal, and an extreme impulse to just dash for it at the first chance, out of sheer terror at what might happen if the reactor melts down.
Okay, okay. I will go into the reactor room and get as close as I can to the reactor and try to summon the spirits that is here, apparently.
Okay.
Whichever Amir seem to be interested in.
walking into the reactor room, the first thing that catches your eye is one man with his back turned to you, examining the reactor for any faults, essentially doing a safety check of the reactor, with a clipboard, essentially checking a bunch of boxes. He hasn't noticed you yet, but in response to the sound of the door opening, he just speaks out. What's up, Bob? He doesn't look back, he just says this.
I walk towards him, and with one myself, if I can, I would like to just kill him
Mm-hmm.
immediately, quietly.
Roll flat strength, just a feat of strength. Well, not a feat of strength, technically, but just roll strength. Yeah. With one swift motion of the tail, sort of like in a whipping motion, um, the man's body doesn't even react. His head just falls from his shoulders and then he falls back. You feel the man you're still holding with your tails essentially struggle against the restraints. Um, and you hear huffs from the hole in his neck. You get the sense that if he could, he'd be whimpering out loud.
Mm-hmm. Jasper, just as he walks closer to the reactor, just says, "Quiet now. I need silence." And he will begin the process to summon whichever spirit is in this place that is very powerful. He'll
All
cut
right.
off his wrist and begin the ritual to summon it.
So opening your wrist and gently pressing your hand against the concrete housing, this gigantic cylinder that holds the reactor within, you feel some of your vitae slip from your wrist, fading through the concrete and into another plane of existence, and you sense a presence still awake, still alive within the reactor. You lose a single blood point, and you feel this presence reach out to you. Doesn't harm you, but you begin to hear words echoing through the room. What is a death walking creature like you doing here?
Hmm. That is a good question. I will answer it politely as I can. I came here because enemies of mine seem to have interest here. And, well, they are distasteful towards, well, beings like yourself, enslaving them and whatnot. Though I did not expect to come into, well, a nuclear power plant.
Kin of yours?
As much as I would like to say no, yes, unfortunately.
Servants of the worm often fight amongst each other. Then again, servants of Gaia do the same, do they not?
That is indeed true. Though
The
I like to think of it as different from my brethren.
The voice, as it echoes from this cylinder, with a sort of crackling quality to it, speaks in a more interested tone. So, what brings one cursed away from death to my prison?
Jasper raises an eyebrow. Prison, you say? I never pondered whether this would be your home or prison. Interesting. Well, I came here to seek an ally. But since you said that you're in prison, why not make a friend as I free you from this forsaken place that you're in, while also keeping you away from others that wish to imprison you in the future?
How would you do something like this?
Well, let me ponder. There,
Worm-touched things like you reek of treachery.
oh, no. This is a mutual agreement. You help me, I help you. We get both what we want, and I would say that that is a win-win situation for both of us.
What would you require of me in exchange for my freedom?
Hmm. Simple, really. I just asked for you to share some of your power with me. After that, you can do whatever you want as long as you can help me also whenever I call you. And in exchange, I will do anything you ask. That is, of course, within my reach.
As you
And
mention,
it,
hmm?
and does not put me in life-threatening situations.
As you mention, essentially the insinuation of being put under your service in exchange for freedom, you sense a crackling, tingling sensation on the palm of your hand and in your wrist as some more of your vitae begins to feel a pull. Do you allow it?
Mhm. I'll allow it.
Mm-hmm. You lose another blood point as the vitae once more almost evaporates out of your wrist into something alien to this plane of existence. And the voice from within the reactor speaks a bit louder. Exchanging a prison for a set of chains is not freedom.
Oh, no. You mistake my words. This is going to be mutual service to each other. As I said, I will ask you for your powers, and whenever you need my services, I'll help you with whatever you want or desire. Think of this as a business ship.
A compelling offer, worm touched. Free me from my prison, and I will consider accepting this pact.
Very well. I will free you exclusively out of charge for this agreement of ours. And I hope that you will take kindly to your heart my proposal.
The voice goes silent, but you sense a calming sensation uh, at the palm of your hand.
And Jasper will go back to the reactor room and, with the information he pluckered from the Meng's head, he will begin flipping switches to commence the fastest meltdown into this facility that he can.
Mm-hmm. As you
Which,
begin flipping switches, the man you are still holding with your tails begins to struggle even more vigorously. Um, you can definitely sense the distress he's in. Um, Attempting any amount of even brushing against his thoughts, it is very, very clear that he's trying to just bolt as soon as he gets a chance because he doesn't want to die in this room.
don't worry, you won't die here, I say as I'm flipping the switches.
Yeah.
And once I flip all the switches, I will use one of my tails to break the console so no one can stop the meltdown from happening.
Okay. As you flip the last switch, there is a warning sign that appears on the console. Um, and you simply brush the tail in a whipping motion across the base of the console, and with a few sparks, the lights on the console go out. With a few extra whips, you break the switches and make essentially you make sure that this console is completely inoperable. Shortly after you flip the switches, one of the screens, like the monitoring screens next to the console, begins flashing red on the temperature marker. And it seems that the temperature is rising far quicker than its natural. Um, as this happens, you peer through the glass into the reactor room, and you begin to see parts of the concrete cracking as a glowing red bright light emanates from the opening at the top of the cylinder. The man next to you um, begins to struggle even more as one of the devices he has attached to his belt begins to tick and tick and tick quicker.
Mm-hmm.
You've done your research, you know what this is. It's a Geiger counter, and it's going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And yet,
I
you feel completely untouched.
okay. I would speak out loud to say to the spirit, I'll be taking my leave to get out of the explosion radius, but I'll be nearby, I say to the spirit, and I will begin opening up a hole into the Shadowlands and step through it. I
Mm-hmm.
can leave quite and safely out of the blast radius.
As you begin to open the portal, the man still struggling in the grip of your tail, you hear the echo of the spirit's response. We will do great things together. As you begin to see small fires within the reactor room building up. And as you step into the Shadowlands, ensuring the death of the mortal you carry with you, we will take a quick break. We will be back in around 15 minutes. to join some of the other members of the pack. See you soon. Welcome back. We join Serena as she awakens within the forest. In the cave she's spent the most recent nights. Serena, you reach to the side, expecting your hand to feel the patchy fur of Phobos or the bony frame of Deimos.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, your hand lands only on the dirt floor. You look around, and your wolves are not in the cave with you.
Mm-hmm. Serena's going to use the eyes of the forest to find the wolves.
As you focus and your perception once more expands through your forest, you capture the sight of your altar, now marked with ritual after praise after prayer. And standing on either side of this altar are your wolves. Now, with their backs straightened, as big, well, even bigger than bears at this point.
Oh,
And they stand at the ready, towering, almost having to lower their head not to hit the branches at the top of the tree.
Serena is going to go out and quickly step through a tree to go to the elder space.
Mm-hmm. The wolves look to you. Their off-colored eyes, left on one of the wolves, right on the other. They begin to almost stand out to your perception as the rest of the world almost loses all the color and light it has. And as those eyes stare to you, you hear, well, you feel a presence around you, below you, surrounding you. And it speaks in a deep, ethereal tone. Your final trial.
Is that all that it says?
Mm-hmm. The
Serena,
environment remains the same, as if it's expecting something from you.
Serena uses the eyes of the forest to look at the. Serena goes ahead and starts digging up the corpse of the mother.
Mm-hmm. At first, it does take a bit of effort to pierce your fingers through the earth, as it's essentially saturated with the roots of plants that have grown on top of the burial site. But after a few brisk motions, you begin to find it easier to pull the earth away, and then the earth begins to harden as if it's been packed, until you feel something brush up against your fingers as you pull a chunk of dirt out of the ground. You see, just peeking from this breach in the earth, a slight fragment of the bone from the corpse you buried.
I start.
Only it's much larger.
Yeah, I continued to carefully digging it out all around it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I probably just modify my hands to make it easier.
Mm-hmm. I won't have you roll for that, it's fine. As you continue to rip the earth out, you almost feel the earth at the tips of your fingers begin to soften with each motion. You feel the presence of the earth spirit you familiarize yourself with, assisting you with digging, as eventually, about an hour of digging after, you've exposed the now overgrown remains of the almost starving mother of the wolves you adopted.
Does she have the eyes that I've seen?
Yes, they are still intact. Notably, both of them have the odd coloring that your wolves have.
I pick up the body and jump out of the hole.
Mm-hmm. As you begin to pull the body out, it's almost as if it assists you. It doesn't allow you to carry all of the weight. It doesn't do the work for you, but it definitely feels as if it's making the job easier. And as you take the body out, the wolves look to it, then look to you, and the voice echoes in your mind once more. The final trial. Sacrifice.
I'm gonna roll on that.
What would you like to roll? What are you trying to achieve, actually?
I'm trying to understand what I'm supposed to sacrifice.
Hmm.
My blood? The wolves? What?
I think you'd be attuned enough by now to puzzle the pieces together. As the wolves essentially relax their posture, the environment remaining unchanging. They approach the remains. Phobos sniffs, pushing it slightly with her nose, and Deimos looks to you and then to the body. It's pretty clear that these two creatures that you've developed a bond with, you became attached to, they, in a sense, are the sacrifice.
Serena. Let me compose myself, not Serena. Serena is fine. You're the one who attached our doggos to the uh, who developed the wolves based on our doggos. Serena looks to them and who is closest to her right now?
Deimos would be.
Uh,
Yep.
she's going to shape her arm into a. I wanted to do that for a long while. She's going to shape her arm into a sword, like so that there's sharp bones on the end.
Mm-hmm. As you do, Deimos approaches you without any fear and presses his forehead against you in sort of a show of affection, after which it looks to the hole on the ground and simply climbs in.
Right, so I don't need to cut them down? I just need to bury them?
I expect you to react as Serena would.
Again, this is very emotionally complicated right now.
It's okay.
I
Take
request
your
a roll of help.
time. Hmm. Let me check your sheet. Apologies for the change in lighting. Let's see. I suppose you can roll wit and occult with foresight as a specialty that applies.
Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 successes.
Mm-hmm. So with the entire experience you've gone through, it's very clear that all of this entire test has been to show that you understand the cycles this entity wants you to familiarize yourself with. To that end, the cycle does involve these wolves. It's not that you need to kill them, it's that you need to accept the fact that they're dying.
Ah. Okay, then then can we retcon the sword hand
Yeah,
transformation,
that's
okay?
fine. That's fine.
Then Serena goes to the next wolf and also shares the same affectionate head bumps.
Yeah, Phobos
Tries to put
locks.
his mouth.
Hmm?
Is that the one that puts the mouth on me?
Yes. Phobos basically begins to lick at your face, almost in a primal show of affection. It opens its mouth, kind of pressing its muzzle against your face. With sort of a almost a playful but tired huff. It
I know
then
you're tired. Serena ruffles its ear and says, I know you're tired. It's time to rest. Let's go. I prepared a bed for you.
the wolf Phobos begins to take a few steps following your lead and approaches the grave. And
By the way, Serena also jumps down so that she can also give Deimos the same, affection. And basically, chat with them like the stepmom she's been chatting with them like. I know. You're tired now. And now you can rest, the both of you. And your mother. But we had fun, didn't we?
Phobos seems to look to you with its tongue out, and despite its sickly appearance, it drools very happily. While Deimos simply nuzzles at your leg, with a very weak breath, caressing it, as it begins to run out of energy, given its almost emaciated state.
Serena stays with them in the hole until they died.
Well, they don't die while you're in there. They begin to close their eyes and almost fall asleep.
When they fall asleep, Serena's gonna carefully get out, pick up the mother, and also place her carefully in the middle where she was sitting with them.
As you do, it's almost as if the skeleton naturally falls in a position where it cradles both of them. And in their exhaustion, both Phobos and Deimos seem to press their backs against the carcass.
Serena looks around for some flowers.
Would be easy to find.
Yeah, so she basically gathers flowers to make a wreath. You know, like a wreath. To drop into the hole. And then she'll start getting the earth back, asking the earth spirit again to help her gently cover up, as if she's putting a blanket over the trio.
As the earth makes contact with the fur and skin of the wolves, while they don't show any pain, you do see the flesh almost immediately turn pitch black and begin to sludge off of the bones.
Serena continues.
Yeah. And as...
But still observing and taking everything in.
As you begin to cover the wolves fully, the world around you begins to regain some of its color. And as the last bit of dirt is placed in the grave, it's almost as if by some odd mechanism, the earth begins to level by itself, as if time passed incredibly fast. Plants begin to immediately grow over the grave. And you turn to your altar to see all of the things you've placed there begin to rot and fall apart and be replaced by vines and essentially life that flourishes from all of this decay. And as this growth slowly begins to stabilize, you hear the echoes of not a voice, but a feeling, an emotion. The closest thing you can say to put it into words is a feeling of accomplishment, pride, maybe satisfaction.
Serena stays on top of the grave for a bit, just like feeling and watching the forest. Does she still feel the presence?
Yes. It does not go away.
She addresses it mentally. Do you know if... Because she doesn't want to speak it out loud?
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, she just whispers to the... Do you know of a city in the underworld, hidden in a lair that moves all the time, in which ageless monsters live, who should have long perished, yet they hide in a place to which they should have gone?
You hear faint echoes of the voice. The city of Enoch. Reflections
Yes.
of Cain's first true domain.
Yes, that city. We wish to besiege it.
And so you shall, through your own hand.
Will you be able to provide a path? It is your domain.
I will simply give you the key. You open the door.
Understood.
And the presence fades.
Serena goes back to the cave.
Mm-hmm. As you approach the cave, it is no longer there.
I hope it didn't bury my stuff. I hope my stuff,
Your
like
stuff is
cards
out.
or like...
It's fine.
Okay.
Either
Because
that
for a
or
moment...
you brought it with you. It's fine.
Okay. Wow, a self-cleaning cave. Syria expands her view to see if there's any forest defilers, litterers in the area.
As you look to the usual spots, some of them still have remnants of these long plastic tapes labeled crime scene. Whatever is left has been stripped of all human influence, and instead, the woods have taken it back. Where once a fireplace was, you now see a sapling emerging from the ashes. Where logs used to be laid and used as seats, they now rot and provide housing for a myriad of bugs and small life forms. And where once you saw tents and trash strewn about, you now see heavy vegetation, grown bushes, and very, very... all of the signs of the human presence in the area are faint.
Mm-hmm.
As if it's echoes of what once happened but no longer happens. What do you do next?
I'm gonna go. I'm thinking that. Well, I think I'm gonna get my phone and text Cecil. So I finished my dedication and restored this forest area too. Send.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you open your phone and you send this text, you see it's read, and then you almost immediately get a response. Where have you been?
Everything in the forest.
Another response comes in. I checked the cave, the altar. It's been 3 nights.
Oh. Serena just like, what? Serena. Serena steps into a tree. To go to the edge of the forest. Well, actually, she just texts Cecil, where are you now?
Cecil responds, go to the haven. I'll meet you there.
Mm-hmm.
You can bring the wolves if you want.
Serena just steps out of a tree and to where she should have left the big van in which she brought the wolves. Does she have a parking ticket?
She has to.
She stores them and and plans to, pay them later so that her car doesn't get stopped by the police for not paying parking tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And starts driving back to the haven.
Mm-hmm. As you make your way to the haven, the world around you feels almost as if you're more aware of how fleeting life is, of how inevitable death is. And yet, the world around you has never felt more alive. You begin to approach the haven, and what goes through your mind as you drive through the city?
It feels weird to be going back to civilization. It's like the studies and so on, but it's also good to go back to the like research. Well, she's still been researching. Like I'm sorry, I need to like not mix. Oh shit, not mix like like Serena and me who's feeling my wolves,
I know.
and Serena who's on a path and who's like, I'll never dying. I guess maybe for the first time she's like she feels an odd calm, which is very rare given her condition, further enhanced by the Malkavian madness network.
Mm-hmm. And this
Like it's confusing that it's been 3 days, so she's going to go talk to Olivia, but it's also it's it's a strange feeling. She can't put her words to it.
Mm-hmm. And as you park the car using your usual methods to make your way into the Haven, inputting the code on the elevator, making sure the cameras are out while you're going in, you open the front door to see Jack essentially sitting in the living room, flipping through pages quite quickly of an occult tome from his collection. Jack, you see Serena after 3 days of not hearing a peep from her.
Well, hello there, I guess.
Has it really been 3 days?
Yeah.
How strange.
Mind elaborating?
I did not miss a single night without communication.
Do you feel hungrier?
No.
What happened then?
I mean, I finished the trial, the dedication, and we'll get our key to the city.
Now I guess we'd need a door.
Well, look. When I woke up, I guess 3 days ago, my rolls were gone. I mean, I try to save the story for when Olivia gets back here. But I'm assuming she is pissed, worried, out of her mind.
Okay. That sounds like Olivia.
I mean, you've seen her in the last 3 days. Or no?
Could have, right? Yeah. She wasn't really happy.
Well,
you have to see the world from Olivia's perspective too.
I know. Given the fact that and given the fact that mysterious stalker who can teleport into the middle of the ocean, I understand her worried perspective.
The what now?
Didn't you know the guy who moved you to the middle of the ocean?
Who flicked the generation into me?
Huh? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He also
That-
did that with me, but but it was less like friendly. It was more like cut the sass
Mm.
in a threatening way. But that was, I don't know, a week or so ago,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2. But yeah, that was a while ago. So I understand me going missing, but there isn't a day that has passed for me.
That is strange, though.
I mean, all the places that I've cleansed of human. Well, like I said, let's wait for Olivia so that I don't need to repeat myself multiple times.
Meanwhile, I'll try to remember if I read or heard anything about time dilations.
And as Jack says this, the front door of the haven slams open, and Olivia essentially stomps their way in, looks to you, Serena, and says, "Where the hell were you?"
Serena turns around with her hands in there. Like I was saying before, I woke up today. Well, I guess for you that must have been 3 days ago. I've been in communication with you all the time, from my perspective. She looks to her phone and, like the last text messages. And indeed she sees that, her last text message had gone to Olivia, like, 4 nights ago now. Like, before she fell asleep. I woke up what I thought to be the next day, and my wolves, which at that point looked like they were dying, but also were the size of the bears, were missing, and they were at the altar. I came there, and it was the final step. Letting go. The death step, right? So I had to dig up the corpse of their mother, the bones of which also grew. So the mother was the same size. And then, basically, we said our goodbyes. The wolf went into the deep, deep pit. I dug.
Look,
Laid to rest. And
you were safe.
wait, let me.
Yeah?
Yes. Look, what
Okay.
I'm explaining is that I woke up 3 days ago. It was the final part of the ritual. I put the wolves to rest, and I passed my dedication. We also got the. I've been given the key to the. To what? So, I don't know how the path, but yeah. So the dedication is done. Everything that I've killed there. So basically, when I came back to, like, while this was happening, I was like in this liminal space of some sort. And when I came back, grass grew back on the place. The cave was gone. My things were outside of the cave, and I just texted you. Well, that's only then I found out it was 3 days.
All that matters is you're safe. And you're saying you got a way in now.
I mean, I've asked if Televelis knows about the city within which Selma arrives. He knows of it, knows the name, obviously. And I asked if he can, like, provide a path for us because we wish to besiege it. And he said that besiege it will shall, and that I have the key. I mean, I guess it will be understood when, when the time is right. I mean, I didn't get a physical key, but I suppose it's something on the other side, maybe?
I guess we'll learn. Eventually. This is a lot to take in. I had to pause my experiments to look for you.
I am sorry that Teliovelis did not send you a message that I'll be gone for 3 days. And Serena cracks a smile at Olivia.
Olivia, with quite an annoyed look on their face, just shakes their head and begins to walk towards the bedroom
Serena follows.
to collect
Serena
material
follows.
for the
Serena
experiments.
follows her.
Mm-hmm.
Grabs her by the waist. And nuzzles her neck.
The only reaction you get at that point is a very subdued, not now.
Okay.
I'm kind of mad.
I'm sorry.
The quiet mad. Oh.
And
I didn't mean to disappear for 3 days.
without a word, Olivia enters the bedroom, slams the door shut.
Serena goes back down to Jack. Sits opposite of him and is like,
I get hurt, honestly.
am I sleeping on a sofa?
Larry's room's empty. If you wanna.
The door to your bedroom opens again, and Olivia exits with the usual experiment bag around their torso and begins to walk towards the front door. I'm going to continue my experiments since they've fallen behind. Please stay where we can see you.
I'll try my best.
As Olivia opens the front door, she's met with Jasper as he sort of reacts a bit surprised to see Olivia. They sort of stare at each other for a second, and then Olivia promptly steps around him, goes to the elevator.
Well, Shirley is in the mood. Did something happen?
Well, I finished my dedication to Teliovelis, and apparently, what I thought was waking up today was actually me waking up 3 days ago, and I was in a liminal space somewhere for 3 days.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Seems you were
That is
quite
really
busy.
interesting.
Yeah. My wolves grew to the size of a bear, but it was time to bury them and finish the trial. So yeah.
Life
I
and
see.
death.
Well, I'm also making some strides in my own things. But good to know that you finally finished up with your show of faith to your death god, I think.
Well, we have the key to the city now. I have somewhere.
Do we have the door for the key? Or at least the lock?
Interesting.
I mean, maybe the door is somewhere in the Shadowlands.
I mean, I could ask the spirit of the Shadowlands that I made a pact with.
Can you just maybe look into the Shadowlands right now?
Sure. And Jasper would look into the Shadowlands to see if there's any change on Serena.
You look into the Shadowlands. I need you to roll courage, please. All right. You barely manage to keep your composure as standing right behind Serena is this incomprehensibly big shape that your brain can't really process. but the immediate knee-jerk reaction you have is abject terror. And then the shape stares straight to Serena and vanishes.
Well, there was certainly something there.
What did it look like?
Can't really describe with words, though I did feel the sense of dread.
But, like, where was it? What was it doing?
It was behind you, kind of staring into you.
Can we maybe... She looks to Jack. Can we maybe pop into the Shadowlands quickly for a look around? But let's go to the first floor first.
Yeah.
I don't
The living room
want...
is on the first floor, by the way.
What? It's not.
Is it?
No. We're on the 12th floor, and last time when we...
I see. That you mean.
She means
Yeah,
the first
meant
floor of
the-
the building.
Yeah,
I meant the first floor of the...
No, I mean, like, can we this time maybe just go to the first floor of the building?
Sure. I'm gonna do something real quick. I'm gonna check how much blood do we have, because I haven't really fed much.
Yeah,
It's-
opening the stores. Are you checking your personal stash or the general stores of the...
General.
Okay. Opening the stores, you have spent most of it, but you'd say you have about a week's worth.
Not anymore.
You're gobbling up the 7 blood
yes.
from your rations?
Oh, if it's just my rations, sure.
Okay.
Oh, Serena
I
looks...
can hunt him.
You can also take from my rations, it's
Actually-
okay. I hunt usually.
Actually, I did bring that one guy with me into the Shadowlands. Could he still be with me and I give it to Jack?
I mean, he's a corpse now. It depends if Jack wants to risk drinking from an asphyxiated corpse.
I wouldn't know about it, to be honest. Well,
To be honest, you have safe food inside the fridge.
Yeah. Let me do that. And Serena, if you don't mind me stealing like another 3-4 days worth.
I'm hunted full.
I cannot really kill that easy.
I've been... Look, just let's pop into the Shadowlands and have a look around.
Okay, I'll grab 4 blood bags from Serena's stash.
Yeah, go.
Sure.
Like, Serena didn't even know she has a stash.
So you gotta know.
I thought we have just like communal stash.
So you got all of your stash plus 3 from
4.
Serena's, 4. So you got a total of 11 blood points that you can consume.
Yeah, I healed 3 lethal I had from last week.
Yeah. Jasper, do you open the gates to the Shadowlands?
When we get down to the first floor, yes. I don't want to fall once again.
Okay. Well, you go to the ground floor. Proceed to open the way past the veil. And as all of you step through, you are surrounded by the shadowy representation of the building where your haven is.
Well,
Anything?
Everything seems as you've seen it before.
Maybe ask to level is really nicely. I don't know.
How long would it take me to sprint to the florist area?
Depends how much blood are you spending.
my current dexterity rating is 8
Yes.
without any
I'm
blood
asking
spending.
if you're willing to spend some blood to speed up the process.
Yeah,
Yeah?
I am.
How much?
Let's say 6.
6? You'd be able to reach it in like 1, maybe 2 turns and come back in that same time.
Serena looks to the guys and says, "I'll be right back."
Mm-hmm.
Just before you go, what exactly are you looking for?
I'm just gonna go quickly to my sacrificial site. I'll be right back. It won't take longer than a second. Well,
Okay.
it will take a few seconds, but I'll be back
Okay.
in a gypsy. You're not gonna be able to keep up, and I don't want to spend a lot of, blood to go take a car ride to the place and then come back. So Serena's gonna whoosh.
Mm-hmm. You run off through the shadows, and you reach the forest through which you make your way until you reach the place where formerly your altar stood. Looking around, you see that the Shadowlands has a sort of a dip on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And you look inside to see faint reflections of a shape, but you can't recognize it. And then the shape begins to fade.
Okay. And then Serena makes her way back. So Jasper, let me just quickly. I saw this. Does it tell you something? And she uses telepathy to show him the image.
What does Jasper see exactly?
Jasper, to your perception, you see a hole in the ground and something as incomprehensible as what you've seen before, but not as mind-breaking as it was. Basically something peeking through that hole in the ground and then vanishing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the thing that I saw behind you, but different. Less of a dread feeling and
So
more like it's curious, whatever that is.
okay, well, I guess it's like Olivia said, we'll find out what the key is in the right time.
I mean, I could ask the spirit here that I have made a contract with about it.
A spirit here.
Yes, in the Shadowlands.
Okay.
And Jasper will try to summon it using his own blood.
Are we talking about the one you just made a pact with?
No. The other one, the first one.
Earth one? Or do you mean the...
The Karna.
The spicy rocks one.
The spicy one.
It's actually not the spicy rocks one. It's another one you guys aren't aware of. So you attempt to pull at this spirit, calling it. And a quick note, Jack, immediately as Jasper, summons this force, you feel an eerie familiarity with it. Almost as if looking at another one of your clanmates, but not really a kin of yours. Something more like a cousin. And before the three of you appears a mangled almost formless shape that begins to adjust itself to your perception. And to you, it appears as a humanoid figure in essentially a cloth bag bound with chains and very tight rope, with oozing blood stains marking the spots where its restraints are, shackled the tightest. And it shows with moans and wriggles of discomfort. Yeah.
My friend, we're in need of assistance. You know what this is, and Jasper using telepathy would show kind of like the hole that Serena showed.
Does he also shows a big shadow?
Yeah, he will also
Okay.
show the big shadow behind Serena.
Let me roll something.
The spirit rolls for courage.
No, the spirits roll with Academy.
The wriggling shape begins to almost... It flinches and begins to almost try to back away, but Jasper, with a simple motion, you manage to pull it back, and it can't really struggle against you. And eventually it just, through grunts of agony, it just says, "The infinite nothingness, the corruption of all things, the end. We yearn for it, and yet it terrifies us."
Triel looks at the spirit. There's nothing terrifying about Teleovelis. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. Whatever this key of Enoch that he gave you, well, apparently it's not this exactly.
Key. The key. You have the key.
Jasper stops and
we need a path.
It's a death sentence. You won't survive.
Right now, we'll come with forces.
Jasper, now very curious, pulls him even closer, says, "What do you know of Enoch?"
To the other two, basically as Jasper does a slight motion, almost effortless on his part, to pull the spirit closer, you see the restraints tighten, and you hear cracking of bone underneath.
Serena just after spending a few weeks in the forest, no restraints, speaking the way she does with nature spirits, she just flinches in the slight disgust, so to say. It goes against how to say the cycle of things in her mind.
All right. Jasper, could you please repeat your question?
What do you know of Enoch and this EM path, perhaps?
The lost city. Destroyed, but it's still there. Memories, They did something. They dislodged it. Set it free from this. And it says this as it almost opens its posture to gesture to your surroundings. The only way in. The masters know it, but I wouldn't know.
Well, whatever you called oblivion. Apparently, says its time has run out.
When you say this, Serena, the spirit almost relaxes despite the constraints looking incredibly painful. And it says, "Then I rejoice. Finally, an end to all the agony. An end. Time to rest."
As should all things come to an end. To rest, to be born again anew. Whatever this key is, she looks to Jack and Jasper. Like Olivia said, we'll find out when it's the right time.
I guess.
I guess in the Shadowlands, what you saw was the death reflection of Telioellis. My past does for that. The teachings I've been. It was about birth, growth, and death, and repeat.
Welcome to the club.
I see. Jasper will now lessen the bindings on it. And
So
he's
I
like,
guess what we need now is a door or a path.
Hold on,
But-
I just need to hear what Jasper was saying.
he lessens the bind a bit so it's not hurting him anymore. And he will cut his wrist so blood can flow out and give it to him, the
Mhm.
spirit, in the sacrificial way.
In a manner not too dissimilar from what you've seen before, Serena, the blood separates from Jasper's wrist and almost fades into this red mist that gets absorbed by the spirit. And as it does, the spirit almost relaxes, and the shape begins to fade into something amorphous again.
Serena looks to the spirit and asks, "You said that once the city falls, it'll be a time for you to rejoice. That it'll be the end of the agony and time to rest. Are you from that city?"
I died there.
Ah,
I was sustenance for the master.
Who specifically?
I did not know their name. I was never allowed to see.
Did you
Well-
hear voices?
Constantly.
Do you remember any names?
No. None.
The female commanding voice, mayhaps?
No. I remember the pain and the feedings. Others could enjoy it. I had no such benefits.
That's interesting.
Jasper looks to Serena to see if she has any other questions.
Serena just, well, let's get back to reality before you know who notices.
Of
Ah,
course.
wait, she looks at the spirit. Do not speak of the key, of the fall, of the oblivion to others.
I only speak to this one.
Serena then nods in relief.
Jasper, with a gesture of his hands, releases enough the bind so It can move freely as it wishes now.
And in a fade that somehow, with no real indication, still looks agonizing, the spirit almost dissolves back into the Shadowlands.
Well then, let us leave.
Mm-hmm.
And Jasper would begin to open the way to the Skinlands once again.
Yeah. And as our protagonists return, Serena, as you step through, for just a fleeting moment, within the infinite darkness, you almost spot two prying lights, almost as if stars in the sky, only they stare straight at you. And as soon as you spot it, you fade back into the Skinlands with your pack.
Rita does not speak of that.
Mm-hmm. And that is where we will leave it for tonight. Thank you everyone for watching, and you may join us next week in the next episode of Beyond Armageddon. We are swiftly approaching the end of this campaign. That does not mean there isn't a future in the channel. But for now, we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.